Welcome to this new episode of the Educator's Clinic. And we have with us Ivan Martinez Pastor. Welcome, Ivan.
Hello, thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Thank you for being with us. And the first question always, who is Ivan and why K-12 education?
Well, thank you very much for your question. That may be long, huh? So be careful with what you ask, Hatem.
Go ahead.
Ivan Martinez Pastor is a learner from Madrid, Spain. My mother was a teacher, so probably I have it in my DNA, no? And that's why I wanted to become a learner, a teacher, helping others learn. So that was my main goal. This took me through several different steps, experiences, both at schools and outside. But I'd say I'm passionate about education. I'm passionate about experiential learning, sustainability as well. I've worked linked to the natural environments. Always, I believe they have a lot to teach us. This said, probably it'd be interesting to mention that I'm a biologist by training.
Oh,
so
excellent.
That's why probably I enjoy natural environments because I wanted to be a biology teacher. So I not only wanted to be an educator, but I wanted to be a biology teacher. I studied biology, I became a teacher, and then here I am.
Excellent. So in Spain, you worked mostly in international schools rather than public schools. Would you like to shed the light on this experience as well?
Absolutely, yes. Well, as I mentioned, I've had many different experiences as I finished my biology bachelor's and my master's on education. I started teaching at public schools first, just for a couple of years, where I experienced the real challenges educators have and face in general at schools, but especially, of course, in public environments. I had the chance to be able to help students struggling not only with the learning, but with their life and social conditions, which also gave me a lot of insight on the important things. And started, I believe, helping me understand something that I learned back then and I keep with me always, and is that there's a couple of things that need to happen for a student to learn. Well, mainly one, and is that the student must be happy, must be in a comfortable environment. Otherwise, learning is difficult. No?
What are the challenges in public schools in Spain, and how is it that people might go, if they afford it, in Spain to the international schools and they would prefer that?
That's a very good question, Hatem. I believe challenges public schools and public education faces are very similar everywhere. Of course, numbers of students in class, public investment, depending on the government, it may change. One of the big challenges we have in Spain with public education is that, don't ask me why, but every government being elected has changed either slightly or massively educational legislation in the country. So being or having to face a change every 8 years, best case scenario, but maybe even 4, that's been challenging. Having to cater for every single student and not being able sometimes to meet the expectations with counseling, etc. All of the teachers and members of staff at public schools in Spain, they do an outstanding job with what they have. About the schools, the international schools in Spain, I believe one of the main things international schools offer in Spain that the public school is not able to, at least to this extent, even though huge efforts have been made, especially when we talk about second or third language. And global mindedness, maybe. No? So it is true that improvements have been made, but this is one of the things that highlight. No? If you are a family in Spain and you choose a private school, One of the main reasons is always language-wise, either English or French, German, depending on the school.
system of the school.
And then, of course, quality of education. There are some public schools in Spain which are IB, but it's not something common. Usually, it's more common within international private schools who adhere to the IB programs. I'm fully convinced. I'm an IB product myself. As I mentioned earlier, my mother was a teacher. She was a teacher at SEK, an international school in Madrid, where I had the chance to study and grow, and also had this experience as a learner, as a student with the IB. So those are some of the things that families choose. Of course, they also choose a personalized attention. They want teachers at these schools to try and shape the best educational experience for their children.
Personally, of course. Less is more, would that be as well? No. That's good to know. Excellent. So you were mentioning as well, Ivan, your vast scope of experience, even maybe while teaching or before teaching, and how did that incorporate in creating the teacher that you are or the principal that you are?
Thank you, Hatem. That's I like this question or topic because in the end, I believe all of our lives are journeys we take. We choose where to go, how, and I am fully convinced that every single, even small experiences we have are what shape us as teachers, learners, and humans in the end. So I'll try not to ramble on a lot, but
please go ahead.
As I mentioned, I wanted to become a biology teacher, so that's why I studied biology. During my years learning about biology, I focused my main interest in human biology and ecology. So that's why I'm interested in sustainability and natural places. And one of my first teaching experiences, I'd say, came across when I was studying a master's on sustainable education at the UNESCO chair in the Universidad Nacional de Educación a Distancia in Madrid. And I had to design a learning experience for students to learn about something linked to the environment. Back then, we had something controversial. It was a national plan for the use of water in the country. And it was controversial because it was a huge shift in what was proposed before. All of a sudden, new huge infrastructures were proposed, dams. The water, it was said to be used for crops, but in the end there were some other interests as well. So it was something controversial, something very interesting, and I wanted to see how could I devise a learning experience for students to learn about the topic, and of course, with critical thinking, then forge their own ideas and opinions. I decided to shoot a documentary film because I'm also passionate about audiovisuals and movies and documentary films. I decided to shoot a documentary film to try and depict, put on the table the controversy, pros, cons, then for anybody watching the documentary to have an idea. No? But what happened is that I took with me two people for this trip, because it was the documentary film. The documentary film involved a trip around Spain. Of course, we had to visit the places where the dams were going to be built, the rivers, and where the water was going to end up. No? So the coast. So it was we drove halfway through Spain, finding these places, these people. In the end, everything involves people. And I took with me two people, a close friend and my sister. And the whole thing was prepared like this. I would give a set of questions to someone. What do you know about water use? What do you know about the national plan in Spain? What do you think about this and that? And then after watching the documentary film, of course, again, some other questions to see what was the result of this educational experience. Excellent. So the two people who came across to know the most and being able to share opinions, to share were the people who came with me. Not only because, of course, they spent a lot of time with me, but because they lived the experience. They were able to interview the people. They were on site living it. So that's what took me to decide that whenever I had the chance, and whenever I have the chance, I believe experiential learning must be there for students.
And when did you show this video to the students, and what was their feedback afterwards?
No, in the end, of course, there was a lot of learning after watching the documentary film, but I wish I could have taken all of them to this field trip with me.
To live it themselves.
Absolutely.
All right, so you mentioned sustainability and you mentioned taking care of the environment, and this is a huge responsibility that, of course, we are all facing in the world nowadays. How would you make sure that this is being well taken care of and articulated, whether as a teacher or as an administrator now in your school?
That's a very good question. It is easy to think of the content that for this curriculum or that other you have to cover. I believe, as you said earlier, I'm a true believer as well on this, less is more. So in the end, it is better to cover less content but go deeper and being able to tackle and take the most out of every single unit, educational experience, call it as you wish. We're currently at our school here in Riyadh, we are currently aligning, and we have some SDG advocates as well at school, and people who have been working with the Sustainable Development Goals and also interested in the environment. We're becoming an action climate school as well. And what we have done, for instance, within the program of inquiry for the IB, so our curriculum, we could say, we've linked every single unit to one of the SDGs to try and explore this SDG further from the unit. So we still cover the content, we still have the same educational experiences, but we look at them from the perspective of a specific SDG. So this is something tangible for students. Students see the unit is about this, we're learning about this, and these are the skills we're developing, but we're also looking farther, and we're looking at life underwater and how is it threatened and the risks we're facing, or any other topic.
All right. So, and would you find that, I mean, if you are trying to build this culture within your school, and of course a school culture is not only the students and the teachers, it's also the parents, it's the larger community within the school is. So basically, what kinds of challenges, I would say, maybe relocating now to Saudi Arabia, and with your experience in Spain and maybe in Venezuela as well, and I'm not sure what other countries you worked at, you will share with us right now, if possible. How is it different to try to introduce this culture or this awareness, I would say, more than culture, within a distinct culture than yours, the Middle East?
Nice, good question as well. To be honest, I believe it's everything, again, a journey, path to follow. We have at school many families embracing the idea of sustainability. I believe we're all aware Saudi Vision for 2030 as well has sustainability as one of its pillars. So it's something very important. The kingdom is looking into this. So I am quite sure that the steps we give are going to be faster than the ones I've, for instance, witnessed back in Spain. No? So in Spain, we started talking about sustainability a long time ago, but it took time until we were ready to act upon some of the things we had to
implement.
And I see, or my feeling here in Saudi is that there's a lot of things to be done, a lot of things, of steps that we have to take. But I see that there's a will within the Saudi population and foreign population as well that we have at school, and all of the ministries, of course, and the government, etc.
It's a collective
effort, and the will is there. So, and you really see things happening already, which is, so I believe for 2030 for sure, the country will be there, and I see the people, they're open-minded to this. So it will go fast. I'm positive that it will happen. It will go fast, and it will probably catch up with Europe,
maybe even
and
rise.
other countries, and for sure.
Excellent,
for sure.
Exciting times. So Ivan, you mentioned a climate action school, and we also know that there is an initiative now for eco schools, and they are all within the realm of saving the environment and conservation and in general sustainable development and taking care of the environment. Is it an easy thing to have or to transform your school to an eco school, and is it actually doable?
That's a great question. It depends on what the goal is, of course. In the end, we as humans, even if you are the most ecological person or greener than anybody else in your neighborhood, you will have an impact on the environment. And that is undeniable. And we have to live with that. We're humans, we are living things, and we generate impact wherever we go, whatever we do. Now, this said, a school as a building hosting hundreds or thousands of students will, of course, have an impact. And if you can plan the building itself from zero, it would be easier to reach carbon neutral or even carbon positive. Some talk about carbon positive buildings now, and it's doable, of course. So that's step one. Can you build a school from zero, from scratch? In that case, everything is a bit easier. Of course, still difficult, but a bit easier, I believe. Now, if you have a building, as it is our case currently, things are a bit more complicated because you find some things which are what they are already.
Not compatible.
Yes, we're in Saudi Arabia, and we cannot forget that several months in the country are very, very hot, so you need
Indoor
AC,
places more than
energy,
outdoor.
etc., etc. And that's difficult. But we can give steps, of course, and I believe the biggest step school may give towards becoming a climate action school or eco school or a green school is to have all of the community involved, so that the impact is not only at school with small acts that of course can be done, but beyond that, at home, beyond that, sharing not only at home but with friends, with extended family. And it is something, it has an impact.
Excellent. I mean, because as you mentioned, if it's not applicable 100% in a school, then you can take it and extend it outside of the school. There is the blue curriculum and there is the green curriculum, and these are initiatives, of course, as well from the United Nations, and I believe that they all also are embedded within the objectives and the targets of the Sustainable Development Goals. How do you think this, if it's not applicable within the current curriculum, all teachers have a lot on their plates and they would feel and think that this is an added on target or an added on layer of work on them. Would that be possible for them to have it in an experiential learning platform, in a co-curricular or an after-school activity, for example, if they are not able to cover it? Speaking of Sustainable Development Goals or whatever new awareness realms that we want to add in the school.
I'll link that with what you asked before, because it is true. When I talk about myself, I didn't mention where I've been working at, and I believe this also shaped me, of course, as an educator. So my first experience, international experience, as I mentioned, was in Venezuela, at a school who was placed in a small city, big enough, it was a city, but a small city. Then I had the chance to work in France. SEK has a school in France in a rural area. Saint-Nicolas-la-Chapelle is a small village. Students go there mainly to learn French and to ski. But it is a fantastic environment for experiential learning, as you mentioned. Why? The school is a small building, a small chalet from the Alps there. And there are classrooms, of course, But there you can truly see that the classroom is the outdoor. Whenever the snow permits, of course, not winter. In Saudi we have a
Different kind of
summer.
challenge, but it's also a challenge.
Yes, they're a tough winter with the snow, but you can really have a nice experience within the Alps community. Farmers, for instance, one of the projects or learning experiences we had there was to go visit a farm. And students were able to see everything. So first of all, what is the relationship between ski slopes and the farms and farmers, no? Because in the end it's not that evident, and many times you say, no, but ski stations, then they don't use them for, no, there's a link, and the society in the Alps, they work around ski and ski slopes in winter, but they also use that as a part of their production and economic network and system. No? So they were able to see the whole process. They visited a farm. They were able to see how cheese is produced, which leads to think about, and I'm sorry I'm taking this to the more of the science side, but it will let you understand what happens within biochemical reactions with bacteria intervening in the cheese, why this temperature, why not this other temperature, why this specific place to leave the cheese to mature, why do we have to move them? So there's a lot of learning in these experiences. Of course, and unfortunately, so far, it is difficult to take all of the students within a big school somewhere, but that's something I've seen happening, for instance, in France at our school in the Alps. Another nice experience I've witnessed, always within the group as well, is we have a tall ship. This tall ship is based in Valencia Sport. And from here, we take students from not only SEK schools, but any other school interested, and adults as well, on the ship for a 1 week, 2 week trip, where they sail through the Mediterranean and they get to understand the relationship that the Posidonia plant, which is one of the main plants, endangered plants in the Mediterranean, being the bottom for all of the ecosystem. How are they endangered? Why? Students, of course, would get their scuba diving certification. They would go down there and see what's happening. They would be able to visit healthy Posidonia forests and not healthy ones. And all of the opportunities that these kind of experiences open. So I'm fully convinced that if I was given a magic wand and somebody asked me, what is the kind of school that you would create? It would be outdoors, for sure. It would have all of these experiences. So it wouldn't be one building somewhere. It would be different buildings or not buildings, but educational or learning spaces.
That's excellent.
Other than that, and I'm sorry that I feel like
go ahead, please.
I'm rambling on. I had a chance to also teach in Madrid, of course, and in Turin, in Italy, before coming and being able to enjoy Riyadh and Saudi Arabia, just to complete the journey.
Excellent. Ivan, you mentioned, and you're still mentioning it, of course, and it's really an important part of learning is hands-on experience. If you tell me about it, I'm not gonna be learning it as much as if you involve me in doing it with you. But what would you say, and what would be, for example, the solution for maybe some parents or maybe even some heads of schools would refrain from these kind of activities due to much risk in it, or maybe some liabilities when it comes to child protection or safeguarding. So we're better off not doing it rather than doing it and having a risk in it. So
I totally get your point, because I've been there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So as educators, I believe we are given opportunities, and these opportunities arise. And of course, it's very human to think that may be a fantastic experience. But better if we don't, because this and this may happen. I believe as long as there's open communication with the families whose children are going to be involved, it is our responsibility. Of course, I have to say that I believe, I wouldn't think that I would, if we were to the 10 attributes of the IB learner profile, I'd never say I'm a risk taker, but maybe I am, and we have to a bit be risk takers if we want our students to have these experiences. So what I would say is, if you have these concerns, it is totally logical. We all have them. As educators and members of the leadership team at schools, we all have these concerns. We are afraid of things happening and then having a negative impact on somebody's life. But I believe, of course, we have to have our specific processes and procedures about safeguarding, make sure that everything is checked in advance, etc., etc. But apart from that, I'd say communication with families. Say, listen, we have this opportunity. This is something we want to do. At regular schools, we have the opportunity always to, if there's a family who is not fully convinced, they can do something different. But it is true that if we were able to have outdoor schools or more and more outdoor schools, it is always an option. And as a parent, I definitely send my kid there.
Excellent. That's great. All right, Ivan, so again, if we move back with our memory to your different experiences and multiple experiences that you have lived that helped incorporate and create the character and the personality of a teacher who is diverse like yourself. What other experiences that you have had in life that helped you to have this open-mindedness in terms of risk-taking and with the passion of environmental care and also experiential learning?
Absolutely. So I mentioned earlier that I wanted to be a biology teacher and that I had it clear. But it is true that I believe that we all, as humans, should explore always different things, different fields, and do something different. So a couple of the experiences that helped me become the learner and teacher I am now are, one of them, the first one I would like to share is I developed this project with a colleague of mine 15 years ago, where we planned a bicycle trip. This bicycle trip took us from Madrid to Accra, capital city of Ghana, through around 8,000 kilometers.
Wow.
By bike. We stopped. We had agreements with certain NGOs and other organizations where we would stop and develop a small workshop with theater and children in general. Usually it ended up being mostly children. We were open to anything, but in the end, young children, wherever we stopped. So we were flexible. We had some points where we had contacted NGOs and we reached there and performed a specific activity, always based on drama with these students, learners, children, but also it was improvised. So you would end up, because in the end, when you travel by bike, the pace is completely different. I could say that when you travel by bike, your soul travels with you at the same speed. And that's very important, because when you travel by car or by plane, boat, then you leave your soul behind to some extent. Here you bring it with you, and everything you live is multiplied times 10. So we would have the opportunity to stop by a school that we were passing by and say, look, hello, we do theater with the students, can we do something here? And usually we were very welcome. You can imagine, Sub-Saharan Africa, two white people on a bike, what are you doing here? Let's take advantage of this. And for us, it was also something, a fantastic experience. So that's one of them. So being able to be exposed to a completely different environment. What's going to happen the next day, you don't really know. But this, I believe, gave me a flexibility and opened my mind to the different challenges and how we have to be patient and how you have to communicate, always listen and try to analyze all of the possible outcomes. Another nice experience I had out of always, I believe everything is linked to education, because education is everywhere. But having the opportunity to spend 5 years living and working in rural Spain, I had the opportunity to work on a sustainable tourism project, linked with bicycles as well, and sustainable or green tourism, if you want. It gave me also the opportunity to understand learning and education from a different perspective. This is a very interesting project, and I believe you can find it everywhere, at least in Europe and the United States and Canada for sure, some Latin American countries and places in Africa, wherever there's been a train that's no longer in use. In this case, in this area I lived in La Jara, in the Toledo province in Spain, there was a train rail that was not in use,
abandoned
anymore. So they removed the rails and they left the whole infrastructure with its tunnels, big viaducts, all of the infrastructure just for people biking, walking, horseback riding as well. So it's something very nice. No motor vehicles allowed, so only this slow tourism.
Trains or sports.
Yes. And the project I was involved on was making this known, let's say, to the not only the community outside of it to come and visit, but also to the local community, because many times it happens that we live with a blindfold and we don't see what we have next door. No? Sometimes
100%.
This happens all the time. So we had to open the eyes or remove the blindfolds of the people living in the area. And that was an educational journey as well. In this case with adults, trying to help them understand how they could better take advantage of this space. In some cases, even developing workshops linked to more specifically tourism and everything around tourism and providing services, and in this case sustainable services if possible. So this involved everything, no? Training, but not only training, but also embed the idea of sustainability in which would benefit as well the local community, because why go buy lamb or vegetables somewhere else where you are producing these products next door. No? So
100%.
That was important.
And Ivan, you mentioned as well, for example, the idea of putting on a scuba kit and then going down and see the deep sea, and the experience of watching the sea and the deep and the ocean. And then when you go outside and then hear about plastic wastes and to what extent they are affecting fish and aquatic life, and then affecting our life as well, if we do this and continue to do it, it's totally different impact than if you just read about it in an article or maybe hear a teacher speaking about it. So again, this kind of living it and experiencing it yourself, it's a wonderful idea.
100%. Actually, let me share another example, because it is true that we talk about this, and of course everyone would like to have the opportunity to go and scuba dive with their students, because then it's completely different, as you say. But I remember within when the PYP was being launched, I had the opportunity to develop an educational experience for kindergarten students back in Madrid. And it was everything about the water cycle. So we talk a bit about the water cycle, but we linked this experience with drama. And we had students relaxing, feeling they were part of the ocean. We asked them to choose an animal. They've been researching before on the different animals in the sea, fish, dolphin, jellyfish. So they all chose an animal. They all were playing around, being the crab, being the, they like to do that.
And maybe use VR nowadays.
Nowadays it could be VR.
You don't have to immerse yourself in the ocean.
Yes.
You can do it virtually.
So in this case, I remember the experience was we had them feel they were in the ocean. They were animals in the ocean. They were relaxed. They were happy playing in the ocean. And all of a sudden we started throwing clean littering the class with plastic and paper, cardboard, etc. We fish
some of them.
We fished some of them, took them aside, and then they looked back at the class, the ocean,
to see how it looks like.
To see how it looks like.
Wow.
The teachers, the week after, they said, I don't know what you did, but most of the families are coming back to us saying, what did you do in class? They're asking me to recycle the plastic. Be careful what you do with the trash. Be careful where you put it. And this is an experience that happened in a classroom. So, of course, you have to give it a thought. But we, educators, we have the ability to do that, to have that impact.
So you don't always have to actually take the kids out, but just think about how to use the environment, how to use the resources that you have and create this kind of experience and experiential learning.
That's it.
That's excellent. That's excellent, Ivan. If we would shed the light on your master's studies, and I'm sure that it was also an experience in itself. You mentioned that you did master's in sustainable education. When was that, and how different is it from the vibe about education for sustainable development nowadays? And what is your takeaway from this master's study?
This was back in... That's a good question. I believe it was 2003, 2004, so 20 years ago. 20 years ago. Back then, of course, we didn't have the SDGs. I wish we had.
Right? Because to have this passion and this initiative to go and take a full master degree in education for sustainable development, while it's kind of, no one knows anything about it yet at that time.
It was new. Of course, after my studies, biology and studying ecology and human biology, I was convinced that we were able to do something about our planet.
Take some action.
Take some action. And as I wanted to become an educator, a teacher, I knew that my tools were on that field. There were other things that probably I wouldn't be able to do, but I decided that my tools were on that field, on the field of education. We hear always, and I always say this, we hear education has the power to change the world, because young children, they learn different things, how to act differently, they learn different skills, and they are the ones who are going to be able to make an impact. And I always finish that now that we are in Saudi, I say, and Saudi now, they have the power of changing education. I believe the will is there. We want to do great things in Saudi Arabia. So it means that Saudi Arabia has the power to change the world now.
That's true. So always I ask my guests at the end a question or maybe a message that you would like to give to the educators at their clinic. And I wonder what message would be Ivan's message to the educators in the whole world at large, and maybe also in Saudi Arabia, of course, specifically.
So my message, I already shared a bit what my idea is, but I believe I would encourage every single educator to try something different. Something, if possible, completely different. So step out of education for a year or two. Do explore other field, do something different, gain other experiences from that and come back to education, please.
Please, exactly.
And apply that. I believe we have to be risk takers now. We have to do things which are different within the world of education, and sometimes stepping out of something. We often say, think out of the box. It's easy to say, but how? Well, maybe you have to go out of the box for a while, see what's happening around, come to this box and share new ideas from out of the box. Excellent. If you need it.
Excellent. That's a very deep message, Ivan. Don't only think out of the box, but you yourself come out of it and then think and then get back to it with a different mentality and a different approach. Excellent. Y una palabra última para los hispanohablantes que están escuchando a nosotros ahora mismo, y qué mensaje tienes para ellos.
Gracias, Hatem. Pues bueno, primero un saludo para todos los hispanoparlantes que estén escuchando el podcast. Mi recomendación para ellos es que para salir de esa caja traten de vivir la experiencia de enseñar en un colegio internacional, desde donde nos estén escuchando, si es en España, si es en Ecuador, si es en Venezuela, si es en Argentina, que den el paso de salir de su país 1 o 2 años, que exploren cómo se vive la educación en otros entornos internacionales, en otras culturas.
En otros continentes.
En otros continentes, totalmente. Y este sería mi consejo para ellos. Salid de vuestro ambiente un tiempo, volved después, porque creo que es importante que demos a la sociedad que nos ha visto crecer aquello que ganamos, aquello que adquirimos con el tiempo, pero que salgan de su ambiente educativo, que intenten trabajar en un colegio internacional fuera, y que después lleven esa cultura que han ganado de vuelta, porque esto es lo que va a ayudar a todo el mundo a tener una mente abierta, a darse cuenta de verdad de que solo somos partes de un todo mucho más grande.
Claro, y a la vez compartir la experiencia mutuamente. Muy bien, pues nada, muchísimas gracias, Iván.
Gracias, Hatem.
Es un honor tenerte.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, and this was the Educators Clinic.